Presentation of dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.
From bus ticket agent to broadcast news anchor, Jim Lehrer talks about the experiences that shaped him as a journalist and his passion for writing. Stay tuned, Dialogue is next. Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin. A welcome as well to our public radio listeners. Tom Brokaw, Peter Jennings, Dan Rather, all are now gone from the nightly news desk. But one network anchor is still going strong, providing continuity for a 30-year tradition of high-quality reporting. Of course, that person is Jim Lehrer from the NewsHour on PBS, and I'm delighted to have him as my guest today. Welcome.
Thank you, Marcia. Delighted to be here.
Now, Mr. Lehrer was originally a print journalist and cut his teeth covering everything from sports to the Kennedy assassination. He started his broadcast career at the public television station in Dallas and eventually made his way to Washington, where he hosted coverage of the Watergate hearings. It was there that he met Robin McNeal, and in 1975, the two of them cooked up the wild idea of a half-hour nightly news program on PBS. The McNeal-Lehrer NewsHour became an hour-long show in 1983, and when Mr. McNeal left in 1995, Mr. Lehrer became the sole anchor of the program, as well as its executive editor. Now, in his spare time, Mr. Lehrer is the author of 2 memoirs, 3 plays, and 16 novels, the latest of which is entitled The Phony Marine. Mr. Lehrer is here as the keynote speaker at the Idaho Humanities Council's annual banquet, a banquet, I understand, that has 950 people attending. That's just fantastic.
Oh, I'm delighted.
That's great.
I didn't know that. That's wonderful.
Complete sellout.
Yeah, that's great. Terrific.
I want to start first by asking you, I understand your mom actually taught school here in Idaho for a time.
She taught at the Nazarene College in Nampa, just outside of Boise, and back in the 20s.
Did she tell you anything about?
Well, she taught English, and it was a very small school then. I think it was just a few hundred students, and there were 4 or 5. Her father, my grandfather, was a big shot in the Nazarene Church, and in fact, he was called a general superintendent. And all the kids, he had 6 kids. My mother was one of them, and they were all involved in the Nazarene Church in one way or another.
Well, you've tied him, I believe, for the amount of books you've written. I think your grandpa, didn't he write something like 16 books as well?
Absolutely. I'm working on it. Yeah, I'm close. Well, I'm about to have, this time next year, I will have surpassed him, because I've got another one already done and ready to go.
It's in the genes. I want to start, first of all, by talking about something that happened recently. You were privileged enough to give an opening address at the new Marine Corps Museum in Quantico. What was that like for you? You yourself were a Marine, your dad was a Marine, your brother was a Marine.
It was an extraordinary occasion for me in personal terms, because you just said it. I was kind of born a Marine. In the 1950s, the draft was on when it came time for me to go to the service, and the question was not whether you were going to go. The only question was what branch of the service you were going to go. And because my dad had been a Marine, my older brother was a Marine, I had been a Marine, I went into the Marine Corps, and I was in for 3 years. I was an infantry officer in the Far East, and for me to come back on Marine Corps birthday on November 10th of this year, 231st birthday of the Marine Corps, and to speak at the dedication of this incredible museum at Quantico, Virginia, 30 miles south of Washington. And the only other speaker, there were only 4 speakers.
President Bush.
Yeah, President Bush, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and a retired 3-star general who was the inspiration behind the museum. Was a big deal to me.
What did the Marines do for you, first of all, as a person?
Well, I believe it was the 3 most important years of my life, and I've lived a lot of years, so that covers a lot of ground. What I learned when I went into the Marine Corps, I was a kid who had never really been out of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. I had never been on an airplane. I had mostly been around just people who were just like me, who talked like me, thought like me, and I'd never been responsible even for myself, much less for anybody else. And suddenly there I was, responsible for other people, and I had to learn not only to be responsible for others, I had to learn how to handle people depending on me. And I learned all the basic things about the Marine Corps, like you're only as strong as the person on your right and on your left, and all those kinds of things, that it's a godsend to be pushed to do your best, all that stuff. And it became part of me. The Marine Corps has a way of getting things very quickly into your DNA.
Yeah, I bet.
And it got in there, and it stayed.
How has it influenced you as a journalist, particularly in an era where you were covering another war? Do you look at war differently because you were in the military?
Yes, I do, Marcia. The whole issue of sending Americans into harm's way as a journalist, these are the result of debates and decisions having to do with geopolitics, politics, foreign policy, etc. But because of my Marine experience, they are also always about real people. Young Lance Corporals, I said in the speech, in fact, young Lance Corporals and young second lieutenants, real people with faces and names and ranks and serial numbers and families and futures that may never be. And it's just part of my attitude toward it. It doesn't affect me journalistically, except that I always keep that in mind.
And is that in part why you have the names at the end of the program that run those who have been killed?
Our honor roll? Absolutely. I think back on it. I'm sure that we wouldn't do that honor roll. That was my idea to do it. I had a stupid idea for the way to do it. That somebody talked. Margaret Warner talked me out of it. I had wanted to. I had something about doing it with a drum beat or something, and she said, no, silence. And she was absolutely right.
Because it catches your attention even more, and you turn and you watch all those names.
Exactly. You know how things are in a television studio. At the end of the program, when we have an honor roll, things go absolutely silent. Nobody moves. If there was a guest there in a prior segment, they remain seated. It's just part of our thing. And my feeling about it, and I feel this very strongly, that no matter what anybody thinks about war or this particular war in Iraq or the actions in Afghanistan, these folks are dying in our name, and that the least they are entitled to is 5 seconds at the end of the news hour on PBS.
There aren't that many reporters of this era who served in the military.
There are only 2 of us, and we have a staff of roughly 85 people, when you count them all, the editorial people, and in Washington and elsewhere. Only 2 of us have any military experience.
Do you think the idea of embedded reporters was a good one to at least bring reporters up to speed on the military?
Absolutely right, Marcia. I really believe that as long as that's not the only thing you use to cover the war, but I think it's a terrific thing to do, and for that very reason.
Your latest book,
Yep.
The Phony Marine, is also along these lines. It's about a Marine, or I should say a man who wishes he could have been a Marine and in an actual finds it shockingly easy to acquire a medal online to give him that feeling. Why did you want to write this book?
Well, there are great waves of respect and prestige that go with a couple of things. To me, they come my way when I tell people, or people find out that I was a United States Marine, and they find out I was an infantry officer, and I mean, people just look at me differently. Now, I had an experience after a book I wrote about the Battle of Antietam, Civil War, called No Certain Rest. At any rate, there was an archaeologist for the National Park Service who helped me do the research. And he had been in Vietnam in combat with the Army. And he asked me to make a speech to some of his colleagues at the National Park Service. And on the way over, he picked me up in my office in Washington. He was taking me to a couple of hundred people who were going to be at this luncheon. And on the way over, he was going over my biography, and he said, hey, I didn't realize you'd been a Marine. That's terrific, and all that. And I would say, well, the Korean War was on and all that. And I didn't really finish by the time we got there. He introduces me, and he says, there are a lot of things you probably know about this guy, Jimmy Charles Lehrer Wawa here, but there may be one thing you don't know, is that he was an infantry officer in combat in the Korean War. And I saw the look on those people's faces. They looked at me, oh my God, with great with a respect that I just, oh.
So you have a choice at that point.
And Marcia, the problem was I didn't want to correct them.
Right.
I didn't want to get up there. I wanted them to think I had been that. I reluctantly did correct them, but it stuck in my mind, and I have seen people who have gotten respect for things they didn't, and that's what kind of led me to this idea of somebody recreating themselves as a Marine.
And we won't give it away, but obviously as time progresses and things snowball,
Absolutely.
he starts regretting the obfuscation.
But it's also expectations. You know, if somebody expects you to act like a jerk, sometimes you act like a jerk. People expect you to act like a good person, you act like a good person.
In fact, though, anyone who serves in any capacity, whether they go into combat, you know, I mean, if they're repairing a truck or doing medical care, they're serving their country.
Absolutely right.
And I know that you're loath to give your opinion on anything that you cover. You're very scrupulous about this. But one area that you have been outspoken on, and it is an outgrowth of your service as a Marine, is your desire to see some sort of national service requirement in this country, be it military, be it Peace Corps, something where people serve the country.
I really believe that very strongly, and I believe it for two reasons. First of all, just because of the effect it's had on me, and how it kind of connected me forever to the world. And it connected me, and it made me realize that there's more to the world than me and my little whatevers. And as I said earlier, I learned how to be responsible and how to depend on other people and how to handle people depending on me, all that sort of stuff.
Gets you out of your comfort zone, too.
Exactly, absolutely right. And that's part of it. But the other part is that what the Marine Corps did was forever eliminate all cliches from my mind. Somebody says, oh, well, he just left-handed son of a Texas billionaire. I was in the Marine Corps with one of them. Oh, he's just some poor kid from Brooklyn. I was in the Marine Corps with one of them. No, you cannot, by the time you serve any kind of public service, you come across every kind of person there is.
So this could be AmeriCorps, could be Peace Corps, could
anything,
be your choice, but six months perhaps
Well,
requirement?
it could. I've been very careful about not being specific about it, but I think what really drives me toward it's my own experience, but it also drives. I just journalistically, professionally, my observation is that we are increasingly becoming more and more disconnected as people, as Americans. We have less in common with each other, fewer shared experiences. And I think that if we handled this national service right, in other words, where it was mandatory and it covered everybody, there was no exemptions, no deferments, whatever, and it wasn't just the military, there could be the Peace Corps, there could be a hospital corps, there could be a police corps, there could be all kinds of ways of doing it.
Why hasn't this happened? Because I've interviewed other people, Haynes Johnson most recently, who's been talking about this for several decades. You know, other people I've interviewed really feel strongly about this. What's the problem? Why can't it?
The reason, simple reason, to be very direct about it, is it's not going to happen until somebody at the national political level, some political candidate, some presidential candidate has got to take this under his or her wing and say, this is an idea. Here's an idea. Let's debate it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying let's adopt it. I'm saying let's just talk about it. And nobody's done that yet.
In the meantime, before it does happen, how do we get more people involved in civic life? Numerous surveys have indicated that people have kind of checked out of following what's going on in government or even participating in local government. I know programs like the NewsHour can encourage that, and certainly your website does. Mm-hmm. But
well, it's hard to. This is a difficult time. I think there's a lot of things that are contributing to this disconnection, and we're being divided up. We're dividing ourselves up into little boxes and target groups and blogs and all that sort of stuff. And the proliferation, I think a healthy thing, the proliferation of all kinds of new ways to get information and all kinds of new ways to facilitate the debates and the discussions, has also facilitated this division. And we're not talking to each other about anything we disagree on. What we're doing is just talking about the things that we do agree on, and we only are with people who are just like us and who think just like us. We've kind of tuned out the whole process of listening. And a lot of this, there are all kinds of causes. I don't think there are villains involved. There are a lot of people in our line of work, in our racket, who are encouraging people to talk loudly and to talk over each other, both figuratively and otherwise. There are the politics. We just went through this campaign where, I'm reluctant to say it was the nastiest political campaign I've ever seen. I don't think it was. However, I have never seen one where, at least the one where the stuff that we covered on the NewsHour, and we covered a lot of the races around the country, where negativism led the way. I mean, and where the distortion of something that somebody did 20 years ago innocently becomes a huge, huge negative. Forget what this person is running on now. Forget what the platform is or what the issues of the day are.
So you're saying sometimes when people watch those type of programs, they become so disillusioned that they just clock out.
But there's a healthy sign, and that was the election results themselves.
Huge
a lot of people
turnout.
participated,
Huge turnout.
and they said kind of a plague on both your houses.
Right.
Forget right-wing politics, forget left-wing politics. Wings, get together and get something done.
That's right. Well, one big aspect of civic life, as you mentioned, is voting. I believe, or I understand, that you don't vote.
Well, that's not literally true. There's a old cliche about journalists, and I support it 100%, is that everybody who goes into journalism should have a couple, 3 stories written about them just to see what it's like.
Yes.
Has some bad information.
I believe you say they should be misquoted, misaged, and misborn, so that they know what it feels like to be on the other side.
Absolutely right. I have a little guideline in my journalism guidelines that I use that I talk about a lot, and one of them is cover every story with the same the same care you would want if it was about you. Anyhow, before a presidential debate, 2 or 3 cycles ago, presidential election cycles ago, a reporter asked me about voting and all that, and I told the story about I was covering politics in Dallas, Texas. As a newspaper man, I was the political editor of the Dallas Times-Herald, the afternoon paper. And in those days, you walked in during a primary, and it was at the school in our neighborhood, and you had to declare yourself. You had to be a Republican or a Democrat. And because everybody in the neighborhood knew what my job was, and the politics of Texas at that moment were very severe, to put it mildly, I just turned around and walked out and didn't vote for a few cycles because of that. It was impossible for me to do it. And that's all I told the guy. And I said, and from that point on, it's a personal issue, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. Well, it got out that I didn't vote and whatever. And it's there are journalists who don't vote because they don't want to cloud their thinking, and there's not many who do. I think that's up to individuals, and I don't think that.
So have you voted since then?
Yeah. Oh sure.
It seems that in your books, though, you're able to talk a little bit more or take a few more jabs in your novels than you're able to in This Persona. I know the One-Eyed Mac series that you have, which is about a lieutenant governor. You're able to get in a few pot shots at what you see as kind of the degradation of politics and journalism.
Yeah.
I think we've got some shots of those books.
Yeah. No, I've always said that it's a matter of function, and on the NewsHour, my function is to ask questions and present things in such a way that the viewer can make his or her judgment about whatever's going on. And when I write my novels, I'm very careful to stay away from politics and issue ways. But I get my licks.
You get your licks in.
I get my licks in.
If you read the
Great
books.
fun.
Now, in your memoir, which is wonderful, and I encourage people to read it, A Bus of My Own, you talk very openly about the criticism that has been lobbed at you of, quote, rabid even-handedness.
Right.
That you and Mr. Lehrer were Mr. on the one hand and on the other hand, or something like that.
Right.
And so, how do you respond to that? That you're so fair and even-handed in giving both sides that people can't tell which is right.
Well, that's their problem. And I mean that literally. That is their problem. My function, as I see it, is, and the NewsHour's function, is say, okay, here's an issue, Social Security reform. Here's what the president is proposing. Here's what the critics say about the proposal. Here are the other alternatives. And boom, 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 and you decide.
Now, your colleague, Bill Moyers, said, why should I present both sides when one side is so obviously wrong, in his view?
Well, he and I have very, very different views. There are all there are several, in my opinion, legitimate, not several. There are 2 or 3 very legitimate functions of journalism. There are either straight news reporting, there is analysis journalism, and then there is opinion journalism. I'm in the straight news part of that. That doesn't mean the analysis. We have analysis people on our program, and we have opinion people. My objection. And I feel this very strongly, and I don't care if it's who says the otherwise, I will say this. I don't think all 3 of those functions should be done by the same person. The person who looks out at a camera and says, here's the news of the day about so-and-so, should not then say, oh, by the way, let me tell you what this means, and then, oh, by the way, let me tell you what you should think about it. That I think the reporting and the analysis and the opinion should be separate, and they should be clearly labeled, and they should be done by different people.
I interviewed Robin McNeal last year, and since he's retired, he's felt more free to express his opinions. You think once you retire you might, or will you still have that journalist framework?
I think, I tell you what I know it sounds like a cliche, but most cliches really are cliches because there's an element of truth to them.
Same with stereotypes.
But, yeah, exactly. I have found that the more you know about a subject, the less opinionated you are about it. And in order to do my function, I have to learn an awful lot about a certain subject. And once you say, oh, well, it's the old story going into a courtroom. When I started as a criminal court reporter in Texas, and there'd be a murder case, the prosecution would put the case on, and I'd say, hey, take the guy to Huntsville and fry him, And then the defense comes on and says, they got the wrong guy.
Right. And
then you look at a jury, the jury's got to make a decision. Well, anyhow, I doubt seriously if I'll be expressing a lot of opinions when I'm finished, because it's not the way I look at things.
Well, and you've written as well in your memoir that journalists are in the dynamite handling business.
Absolutely
and that
right.
they can do extraordinary damage if
bet.
they get it wrong.
You bet.
So better to err on the safe side.
Absolutely.
You've moderated, I think, 10 debates in the last 5 election cycles. We have a lot of debates here too, and we're starting to notice candidates backing out of debates, especially if they're in the dominant party, or just maybe doing one in the whole state. As a moderator of debates over time, do you feel that politicians have an obligation to do debates as kind of a job interview?
I think it should be a requirement. I think at the national level, I think any candidate who takes public money, as they do, as candidates, they should be required to do a certain number of debates. Now, presidential debates are pretty much, there's no way anybody can run for president these days and not do debates. So that's kind of off the table. But, oh yes, bottom line is yes. I think anybody who runs at the state level, local level, I think that debates are an essential part of the process. No matter what the rules are, no matter what the guidelines are, the bottom line is you have Billy Bob here and you have Sammy Sue here. They're on the same stage, at the same table, at the same time, talking about the same things. That is good for the process.
Should third-party candidates always be admitted?
Well, those are things I leave to others to decide.
You have had some funny things happen over time in live television. Another thing I liked about your memoir is it had a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, people showing up drunk to the story.
Live television it brings out one or two things happen to you. You quit doing it very quickly, or you just always it keeps you alert, because there's no such thing as, nobody ever says, well, they only do this once at the news hour, and then they are told to shut up and never say it again. But nobody ever says, well, we're ready to go, it's going to be a great program, because that's about that moment you lose sound. Or the guest gets caught in traffic and doesn't show up.
Or the guest gets drunk and tries to put his earpiece in his nose, right?
Or Marcia, the worst thing is a guest to freeze, absolutely freeze.
Right.
We had a quick story that happened to McNeal, thank God, not me, where we had a guest on about grain elevator safety, the world's greatest expert on grain elevator safety, after a grain elevator had exploded and some people were killed. Sat like that. McNeal interviewed this man for 7 or 8 minutes, and he never, ever spoke a word. McNeal would say things like, well, I mean, how many grain elevators are out there ready to explode? Well, but you report. So McNeal quoted the man's report, got both sides, And he got all the information out, 7 or 8 minutes, and the man never said a word.
Do you still get nervous sometimes?
Oh, sure, absolutely. It's not. Show me somebody who doesn't get nervous doing this kind of work, and I'll show you somebody who doesn't do it very well. The blood's got to run to the brain, and the way one of the ways you get it to run there is, my God, this is important stuff, and I can make a fool of myself on television. I don't want to do that.
Well, we have only 3 minutes left. This is live television, unfortunately. In some respects, it goes so fast. I want to ask you about something very seminal that happened in your life, a heart attack in 1983, just as the program went to an hour. And it changed your life in so many ways. For one thing, you gave up smoking, but you also wrote out a list of the priorities in your life, which included to love, to relax, and to write. As we said, you've written 16 books. What does this writing do for you that made you put it at the top of the list for your recovery?
Marcia, what it does for me, it takes me, again, out of myself. It pushes me to the limit of my creative abilities. It forces me to create people and situations and dilemmas, and it makes me laugh when I can come up with something, a funny situation. Makes me cry when I come up with sad things. I'm just so fortunate to be able to do this, to make up stories and get people to publish them. And it also takes the heat off my function at the NewsHour. In other words, I don't have to sit there, I can't express myself. I have my writing if I want to express myself. And I'm not talking politics here, I'm just talking generally. Outlet, yeah.
I know one of the other things that you do is take a nap every day.
That's right.
And you also, we've got 1 minute left, you are frankly obsessed with buses.
Absolutely. Grew up in the bus business.
Your dad was in the bus depot business. You were a ticket agent. We have a picture of you with a cherished bus that you bought.
Right.
But in addition to just bus memorabilia, buses for you and growing up in that business really helped define you as a journalist because you saw so many different types of people and their stories.
Absolutely right. And I worked in a bus depot as a ticket agent, and I can prove that. This was in the 50s in a place called Victoria, Texas, and I used to call the buses. First time I spoke into a microphone for a living. May I have your attention, please? This is your last call for Continental Trailways, 8:10 p.m. Silverside's air-conditioned through-liner to Houston. Now leaving from Lane 1 for Inez, Edna, Ganado, Louise, El Campo, Pierce, Wharton, Hungerford, Kendleton, Beasley, Rosenberg, Richmond, Sugar Land, Stafford, Missouri City, and Houston. Now, if you have time, I can go all the way to Boise.
Keep going.
Connecting in Houston for Huntsville, Buffalo, Corsicana, Dallas, Fort Worth, Wichita Falls, Amarillo, Denver, Salt Lake City, and Boise. All aboard! Don't forget your baggage, please.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
That's a very nice word to use for that. Thank you.
Mr. Lehrer, I really appreciate your time.
Jim, please, Marcia.
Thank you. I appreciate the time you've taken with us today for our viewers. And of course, I'd also like to thank the Idaho Humanities Council for making time in your schedule to do this interview. We hope you have a wonderful stay here in Idaho and come back and visit us again.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Presentation of dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho. To order a copy of this program from Idaho Public Television, call our toll-free number or visit us on the World Wide Web.